Hey everybody, it's me, Shell360. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm at work. I work an office job. Woo! Bet you didn't know. Anyway, I'm at work and it is Shiny's anniversary, and so I'm doing my best to celebrate their anniversary, even though I have no time lately. It's been crazy. Like, we're at the end of the school year, so there's a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that has kept me preoccupied. And so, like, work, school stuff, and that's it. That's all I do all the time. So I figured this would be the best place for me to record because it's quiet. And I think you could appreciate that. Even though I do have my heater going because office building air conditioning is a fucking monster. And I would freeze if I didn't have my heater going. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the fact that I get cold easily. We're here to talk about Shiny. Shiny is 15 years old. It's already their 15th anniversary in Korea. It will be their 15th anniversary here in the States tomorrow. But, that's fine. Korea always gets ahead of us. But it's just hard to believe that it's been 15 years. For myself personally, I've known of Shiny for 11 years. Well, around 11 years. The first Shiny song I ever heard was Sherlock, and I heard that on a Eat Your Kimchi Music Monday, and it was love at first listen. I remember thinking this song is fucking fantastic. It sounds like Michael Jackson, and I remember seeing the video and thinking the choreography is amazing. They don't do stuff like this in Western videos, and I remember thinking Jonghyun's voice was so super impressive and like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? And after that, like, it's just been true love. Everything's been rolling ever since, and I'm now one of those people that has a band tattoo. So yeah, it's been a lot for me, but this 15 years anniversary for me is really really special. One because 5 years ago we had our 10-year anniversary, and it was the last anniversary that we had with OT5, with everyone being able to share a stage. And then of course we lost dear Jonghyun, and yeah, it was really hard. But we're here at 15, and to me, it's such a big anniversary. 5 years since his passing, 5 years since our 10th anniversary. It is one of those things where, hi Alex, it's one of those things where being able to make it this far, there's just so much pride attached to it because they had every reason in the world to not continue to be who they are. Like, Shiny had every reason in the world to say that, we'll stop the legacy at this point because we don't want to do anything without Jonghyun physically present. They could have all gone their separate ways. They would have all had career options had they decided to do that. But instead, they have fought for the last 5 years to make sure that when you think of Shiny, you think of five. And because the number five is so important, five members, 5 years hence, 15th anniversary, like, there's just a lot going on here. Um, this anniversary hasn't been without its difficulties, though. There were issues with the booking space. Initially, Shiny was supposed to be in a different venue, and the venue that they originally were set to be a part to have their fan meet in. It was like this venue that had a huge concrete pillar like in the middle of it, which would have made it for less seats, and it just wasn't a great place. Like, it didn't have any elevation, so everybody would have had a really distorted view of the stage. So fans came together and demanded that SM do better, and they got SM to book an entirely different venue. They chose the venue, they made sure the venue would be available for the fan meet, and they made that happen. That in and of itself, I mean, I know that there are fans who do big things for their groups, and I'm not discounting anybody else's fandom. I'm just saying it's a different kind of fandom where you basically are calling up the company and saying, hello, yes, we're unhappy with the reservation. We've made a different appointment. Please pay the man. Click. So it's very special that that managed to happen. If you follow the Shiny social media accounts, we have been getting photographs of Shiny from their debut year, unreleased photographs of both the team and individuals. Um, there was like an unearthed photograph that came out today, like literally just today. And it's been so cool to see how everyone has grown. Also, we're really glad that by this 15th anniversary, Taemin is out of the military. Taemin had some difficulties with his military time. He went from being like a regular soldier to being a public service officer due to some complications with his service. And that actually extended the amount of time that he was in the military. And we were all very worried that maybe he wasn't going to be out in time for this anniversary, but he did make it out in time. So we're really grateful to see him too. Um, and everybody looks healthy and happy and they're living their best lives. And it's really gratifying as a fan to see your faves in a good place after so many years and knowing everything that they've gone through. Um, I actually was introduced to Shiny. I just already said it, but I was introduced to Shiny with Sherlock. I didn't know the history of Shiny when I first saw Shiny. I didn't realize what a big deal Sherlock was at the time. When Shiny, hi Chad, when Shiny did Sherlock, it was a huge deal for them as a team because at the time, Jonghyun had been kind of ostracized by the Korean public. He had been caught by, I think was it Ilson Sports or Dispatch? One of the two. I think it was Dispatch. He had been caught by one of the paparazzi magazine type organizations going on a date with Shin Se-kyung. I think that's her name. I could be saying it wrong. But he was basically walking this girl down the street, hugging her shoulder, holding hands, being sweet. We didn't catch them in like full on sexual activity or anything like that. It literally was just a date. Like, I'm walking you home. And at the time, idols and dating was like dynamite and daycare. They just didn't go together. And so a lot of people in Korea hated Jonghyun and they hated the fact that he was the star vocalist of Shiny and they wanted Shiny to put him out and be a four piece. The Shiny that you see recording albums now is what the Korean public wanted when Shiny before Shiny recorded Sherlock. And so what SM did to kind of take the heat off of Shiny's neck is they decided to take Shiny to Japan. And so if you ever want to know why Shiny is like so good in Japan and why Japan is like a second home to Shiny, it is because when the Korean public wanted Jonghyun, Arjong, to be ousted from their group. Instead, SM made a serious pivot. They re-released all of the singles that Shiny had put out in Korea, re-released them in Japanese, and they made a way for Shiny in Japan. And the Japanese fans embraced Shiny full force. They were glad to have them. Shiny really took a lot of care in learning how to pronounce Japanese properly. And ever since then, they have gone out of their way to not only promote their singles in Japan, but to make original content for Japan. Their fandom magazine is their Japanese fandom magazine, Seek. And even on social media, they have an official Japanese account that makes sure that they replicate everything that the Korean account is doing. Plus, they've got their own events. So, part of the reason why Shiny is such a real and true presence in Japan and why Taemin does so much special stuff in Japan and why Onu makes sure that he does special stuff in Japan and the reason why Key does special stuff in Japan is because Japan really embraced Shiny in a time when the Korean public wasn't trying to hear it, wasn't trying to feel it. Now, keep that in mind. We're talking about Shiny, who we all love, having been ostracized from Korea, having to spend time reformulating their career in Japan, wondering if, like, are we just going to be destined to stay in Japan? Like, is this going to be our future? Are we going to be Japanese idols? No, bitch. Instead, Shiny is given the song of a lifetime. And the first thing you hear in that song, their first comeback in Korea after all of the scandal is Shiny's back. Shiny's back. Do you know how fucking bold as shit it was for Shiny to come back with Shiny's back? And then the very next thing you hear is Jonghyun's voice. And, the rest is history. The rest is history. Yeah, there have been a couple of small little things here and there. People want Taemin and Onu not to smoke. And, of course, Jung being just the fucking bleeding heart that he is. He, of course, campaigned for human rights issues that weren't necessarily popular in Korea at the time, but they went on to make such incredible music. One of my favorite Shiny albums of all time was made after they came back. I've talked about it extensively, but Married to the Music, the repackage of Odd, is my favorite Shiny album. But they also did One of One, One and One. We had the Everybody album, which was a mini. We also got Dream Girl, which I love. I think it's so amazing. Why So Serious? Don't really like as much. I think it's probably their worst lead single, in my opinion. We got the fantastic View. I mean, just the list goes on, and that's just the group activities. We've had Taemin become a freaking phenomenal superstar just on his own. Like Move Syndrome was a whole thing in Korea. But also just like his debut, even though I remember at the time thinking like Jonghyun should have had the debut first. His debut, Ace, like if you haven't listened to that album in a while, go back and listen to it. I know it's not Taemin's favorite because he feels like he just had to do what everyone told him to do, but the songs on Ace hold up. In my opinion, the songs on Ace more than hold up. And then, of course, Jonghyun's Bass, which is one of the best debut solo albums I've ever heard, Western media or not. Everything on Bass is perfect. There's not a single skip on that album to me. And I know a lot of people like to skip me on. I don't. I think that that album is precious. And so, yeah, perfect album. Key, I'm so proud of him and his growth as an artist, not just as a singer, but his growth on Variety, his growth when it comes to like being an art director. Like he's just such a creative being. And at a time when people were like, wow, album packaging has gotten really dull and everybody does the same thing. Here comes Key with like 50 different versions of an album, and they're all tied to like media at a certain time in history. And it's just like, wow, his mind. Minho, of course, being the example of everyone's favorite Ken doll. Like, literally, if the Barbie movie had been made in Korea, Minho would have been the only choice to play the Ken doll. But just, out here living his best brosif life, and everyone just being so happy to see his shining, happy face, while also maintaining his spot as the number one shawwal in the world. Uh, it was such a gratifying and just like full circle moment when last year Minho announced that we were getting Chase. And if that doesn't place him as the number one shawwal in the world, there's nothing else that can. After getting Ace, Bass, Face, Voice, which in Korean it rhymes, to finally have Chase and have the plagiarism cycle complete and him dedicating the album to them being the five, like, come on. Minho's everything. He is the Shawwal. And then, of course, our leader, Onu, which he's gone through a lot these last several years. I think a lot of times before everything happened, a lot of people didn't understand the kind of leader that Onu was, because Shiny just seemed like an easy group to lead. Like they just really seemed like there were no problems to try to solve because they all just get along and they're kind of all on the same page. And yeah, there's a little cat and mouse action going on with Minho and Key, but for the most part, everything's calm. But for him to be somebody who, after going through what most people consider a freaking nightmare, he not only brought his team together to ensure that they had a safe space to just kind of express their feelings and evaluate like what they wanted to do from here on out, but also he made it possible for them to continue. He made it to where their feelings could be validated. He encouraged therapy. And I think that he really took to heart, the fact that interior matters affect the exterior. You can't get on stage and give everything you give to these audiences if you're not taking care of your soul first. And I'm so impressed with the fact that because he knew that he's now transitioned into yoga apprenticeship, and he's really focused on like making sure that being a shawwal is not just about getting premium music or getting amazing concepts, but also about feeling like being a Shaw Wall is a safe space. Um, it was hard. It was very hard that so close to SHINee's anniversary, SHINee would be reminded of what is missing. And I don't say this to minimize anything going on with the fans of Astro, but it's got to be jarring, and it's probably got to affect you if you are suffering with any kind of PTSD, to have someone who feels like they're almost in the exact same position as the person that you lost, and then they lose their attempt at staying alive. And to see the people in your industry go through that same kind of reflective, what are we doing? Why aren't we doing better? I thought things were improving. It's tough. And I love the fact that rather than maybe saying no comment or keeping to themselves, which they had every right to do, instead, they put messages out there of support for the members of Astro, the friends and the family of Moonbin. They put out there how they understood and how this is a terrible tragedy and it needs to be understood as that. They put out there that they want to create healing spaces and they want to be able to make people feel like they can be heard and try to prevent this from happening again. And just the heart that SHINee had. I can't speak to what other groups had to offer, but SHINee being a group that has literally been there before, to be able to say, like, if no one else is going to say it, we're going to say, grieve however you need to grieve. Do whatever you need to do. And if you need a listening ear, we're here. Like, no one else could do it the way that they did. And again, it makes me so proud of these men that they stepped up in this way, that they recognized that these young people in their mid-20s needed help, needed navigation. And SHINee has had the time and perspective to be able to offer a small part of that. And I've always been proud to be a Shaw Wall, but I was super proud to be a Shaw Wall in the days following. And I hope that people will reach out, and I hope that people will find a way to get through this. You know, Unfortunately, the music industry, the idol industry, there's a saying, the show must go on, and people don't always get the time that they need to be able to recover, to be able to take a break, take a breather. And when you have to do things, when you have obligations, when you're supposed to appear at this venue and that venue, when you already have signed the contract and you've taken the money, you don't always have the ability to say, I'm sorry, but I'm sad today and I can't do this. And so, you know, how do you navigate life when your grief is all consuming, but somebody's got to keep the lights on? So I'm grateful that we're here. I'm grateful that we're here at 15. 15 is incredibly special. Also, it has been very odd to see Twitter accounts that don't necessarily follow deep K-pop reporting on SHINee's anniversary. There's a Twitter account called Popbase, and they've done like 2 or 3 tweets about SHINee's anniversary. And like, what's your favorite SHINee song? Happy 15th anniversary to SHINee. And I'm like, most of the time, these accounts, they will report on Blackpink, they'll report on BTS, they'll report on Twice. You will get a little New Jeans, aespa content here and there, NCT, Stray Kids. But a group like SHINee, again, a 15-year group, you don't get a lot of reporting on a group like this from Western media outlets. And the fact that the love has been shown, I think, not for nothing, it just goes to show that SHINee remains relevant. I saw a Twitter thread that I reposted about somebody sharing what their favorite covers of Replay are. And if you look down the list, it's almost every boy group that debuted in Gen 4. Like, seriously, you've got TXT doing it. They had a clip of Astro doing Replay. Like, there's so many groups that are young people. But SHINee is still a role model. 17 is one of the biggest selling groups in the world currently. And 17's got some serious showells on their team. They've got some serious showells on their team. And that's because the thing I think, if you're not invested in SHINee as personalities, if you're not invested in SHINee as individual people, if you're not invested in SHINee from having years and years of experience with them and following their life in the public and watching the shows and everything else, even if you don't do any of that, the caliber of musicianship and the level of talent that SHINee has as performers is inarguable. You can be an absolute novice at K-pop. You could have never heard of anything related to K-pop before, but you can hear SHINee and you can hear music, talent. It's there. It's plain. And that's the reason why we still get new showwalls. And that's the reason why they're still relevant and why there's still somebody to talk about and why Replay is still being performed 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years later, because music doesn't get old. I'm so incredibly fond of those men. I am so impressed by them. I'm so impressed by them. I didn't know if I was gonna like Don't Call Me. I remember when Don't Call Me came out, I was nervous as fuck. I really was, especially because the first couple times I heard Don't Call Me, the song, I was like, I don't know. This is different. This is very EXO of you. But then you'll listen to an album by SHINee, an album, not a single, and you'll find a song like Code. And it just brings it all back that these men are incredible at what they do. They make music, baby. They make music. So a couple of questions have been asked online, as you do with any anniversary. And I'm going to ask them to you. If you want to leave a little message in the chat, I'd love to read it. But one of the big questions that everybody always asks is, what is your favorite SHINee song? But I feel like that's kind of unfair because, like, how do you choose when you have such a steep discography? So let's just break it up a little bit. What is your favorite SHINee title track? My favorite SHINee title track, if I haven't already said it, which I'm pretty sure I did, my favorite SHINee title track is Married to the Music. I think that particular title track has everything. I think that the video is amazing and hilarious. I think the choreography is super memorable. The fact that they walk into the room holding Jung, like, that's so funny to me. I love the fact that it's Halloween themed because as a shawwal, Halloween means a ton to SHINee. Back when SM used to have their Halloween parties, no one used to dress up for their Halloween party. SHINee was the first group to dress up for an SM Halloween party. And ever since then, it's become a staple of the Halloween party. And so, yeah, to have a Halloween comeback, hilarious video, and then a song that sounds, again, like a Michael Jackson track that has just the biggest, most beautiful notes. It's so funky, it's so vibey, and it's like pure candy pop at the same time. Like, it is a perfect song and track. And yeah, it's my favorite title track SHINee has ever done. Now, I have talked before about what my favorite SHINee song, full stop, is. It's Hold You. But what is your favorite SHINee song that you think could have been a title track if it had been promoted as such? And my answer, while I was tempted to say my answer would be Code, because I think that Code could have absolutely have been the title track of that album. Code is so good. I met a non-K-pop person in my office when I first started working here. I played Code for them, and they added it to their personal playlist because they thought it was that fucking dope. But I think that we can all agree Symptoms should have been a title track. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody has its place in SHINee history. SHINee has said it is the most difficult choreography they've ever done. And a lot of people really love Everybody. So I'm not saying that Everybody isn't that girl. What I'm saying is, when you think about it, They gave us a snippet of Symptoms when Symptoms came out, and the girls went crazy, and we were like, you can't stop at a minute. You need to give us the full song. And they're like, yes, you will get the full song when you buy the album, but it will not be the single and it will not get a video. And so, yeah, if I had to answer, I think the B side that should have been a title track is Symptoms. I don't know why K pop doesn't promote more songs from a single album. That's still something that I grapple with to this day. Like sometimes they'll promote more than one song on an album, but usually K-pop likes to promote just one song on a full project, and I'm like, why? Why though? But anyway, that's my answer to that. Next, somebody asked, what is your favorite SHINee choreography? Now, this is very difficult for me because SHINee's choreography, in my opinion, is some of the best choreography ever set to video. I think that just starting from like Replay, you have so many arguments for like what's the perfect choreography. So you go with like Replay that has the most memorable choreography. It's covered all the time. Then you have Lucifer, which kind of set a standard in K-pop for what choreography could be for groups. And then you look at Sherlock, which again was such a special choreography because it wasn't everybody kind of doing the same thing. It was everybody kind of being a different element of the dance. So that's super special. Everybody is their hardest choreography according to the group members. I'm thinking about the really fun choreography for One of One. A lot of people don't really think about the choreography when they think of SHINee's choreography, but that one actually is really good. Hmm, hard choices. But I think I'm gonna go with Juliet. I really love the choreography for Juliet, and whenever I see them do it, I'm always like, wow, I'm in love with you guys. Y'all are so special. Also, I want to say that Juliet was the first choreography that SHINee had that they called the magic choreography. And basically, that means like if you play other songs over the choreography, it'll always match because of like the beat signature. And so, yeah, I think that the Juliet choreography is very, very special to me, very, very memorable. Okay, let's think of another question that's been asked. Oh, what was your favorite SHINee comeback? Like where you just thought all the elements of the comeback worked really well. Everything was kind of like just right on perfect, and you're like, yes, this is it. I have to give that to One of One. One of One to me is one of the strongest like rollouts of both an album and like a theme that SHINee's ever had. I love the fact that SHINee was like doing 90s New Jack Swing type music before 90s and like Y2K really started to come back into the forefront of things. And One of One, of course, perfectly matches that theme. Like it sounds like it could have been made in the mid 90s. But then, like the packaging, also, the clothing, the hair, they had pogs in the packaging. Like it was just chef's kiss. It was so perfect. And they had a cassette that went with it. So, like, again, 90s theme. They had an actual literal cassette that you could buy with it. So, when I think of my favorite SHINee comeback, just all elements aligning, it would be One of One. I think it's a perfect song in terms of like capturing that 90s air. I think that the choreography was super cute and it was something that everybody could do. I think that the cassette was amazing. I thought the 90s elements of the packaging was really cool. The clothing was very era appropriate. Oh, and the B-sides. Don't let me fail to mention that one of my favorite SHINee songs. It's not my favorite, but absolutely like probably in my top five. Don't Let Me Go. Such a good song. Of course, Prism is a great song. And I know there's an argument for people saying, like, if I had to choose another song to be the title track, I'd choose Prism over One of One. I get where you're coming from, boss. But yeah, Don't Let Me Go. If you haven't heard Don't Let Me Go in a really long time, I highly recommend listening to it. It's so pretty. It's so nice. I just love it. I really, really, truly love it. Okay, now let's go to favorite individual solo member songs. I'm gonna start with Onu just because I feel like with Onu, I've I've purchased all of his projects as a solo. Like I bought some soundtrack songs he's done, the packaging for those when I could get my hands on it. I still need to buy some of his Japanese stuff that I have not done, so I need to correct that soon. But time gets in the way. But I bought all of his Korean comebacks, starting with Voice, and I have to say, even after all this time, and I think that Dice is a great album. I think it's probably my favorite overall project that Onu has done since doing solo work with Shiny. But I still think my favorite song is Blue. There's something about Blue that just feels like it feels like Onu cut his chest open and just exposed his heart to us. And I've just never gotten over that. I remember the first time I saw the video for Blue and listened to the song while watching the video, I cried because I was just like, this is heavy. This is super heavy. And then I repeated it and watched it again. So I think that's my favorite singular solo song from Onu, but my favorite project of his as a soloist absolutely is Dice. I think it's very, very good. And every once in a while when I see it, I always want to call it Diche. I know that's not what it's called, but just something in my mind wants to call it Diche. Anyway, so starting with Onu, and then we're going to work our way down in age order. So next we have Jonghyun. My favorite solo project by him is Bass. Don't get me wrong, I think that he improved with every single project. There's some beautiful, beautiful work on both story ops. And I think She Is tells such a fun story from like the start to the finish of a relationship. And also like this man was really being nasty on some songs that if you don't know Korean, you would not know. But like go and look at the translations for the song Cocktail. Yeah. That song is spicy. So I love the colors of She Is. I love the styling during that era, all the Listerine suits. Uh, I really do. I really, really love She Is. But uh, Poet Artist is, even though I can listen to Poet Artist and I've listened to Poet Artist many, many, many times, and Shinin' still remains one of my favorite Jonghyun tracks, full stop. It's still a hard album to listen to too often because it's hard to divorce that album's release from its place in history, which makes it a lot harder to listen to recreationally for me. I still think it's a great album, and surprisingly, a very upbeat album. For those of you who are wondering about it, give it a listen. If you haven't, it's not all sad songs. It's like a lot of mid tempo and jazzy stuff and some kind of experimental European deep house stuff. Like, it's a really good album. But Bass for me not only has no skips, but is a classic. From the fact that he collaborated with so many amazing people to make that album, but also like Hallelujah could have easily been the title track. Deja Vu charted immensely. I hate that Iron is on a track because Crazy is a great song, but Iron had some personal issues. So seeing him whenever I watch back, it's not my favorite thing in the world. But I think about like Fortune Cookie, Beautiful Tonight. I mean, Love Belt. We don't talk enough about how great Love Belt is. Bass is a fantastic project. So if you have not listened to Bass recently, I highly recommend you do. Also, when Jonghyun was promoting Bass, he did a lot of interviews with a lot of different Korean channels, and there was a lot we got to know about him, like the fact that he's like smell sensitive and has seasonal affective disorder. These are a lot of things that Shawwas didn't know about until then. And so he was really revelatory in the way that he promoted that album, and it was really, really nice. So yeah, I can't say it enough. Bass. For me, bass. Also the stages for bass were so good. Yeah, bass. Bass is my favorite Jonghyun solo project, but my favorite solo song by Jonghyun, without any question, Monodrama. Monodrama is on bass. And thank you. Thank you so much. I'm doing well, David. Congratulations on your graduation. Uh, Monodrama is a song about a person in kind of an imaginary, one-sided, tumultuous relationship with somebody else. It doesn't seem like it goes so far as stalking, but it is very much, I see you. I've imagined what our life is together. I even get in arguments with you sometimes because you are not able to reciprocate my love. But at the end of the day, I recognize that this is not a real relationship. This is just me projecting onto you because I just care about you so much. And in a lot of ways, it's a song that could be a song for a fan talking about a celebrity. But then when you watch him perform it on stage, it's him performing it in front of a mirror. And it could be him talking to himself and saying, like, I see you, the star that the fans have embraced, this perfect, beautiful, talented being that everyone loves, but I know who I am, and I am just this person who no one really knows, and I am lonely, and I wish that I could be you, and I'm in love with the person that you are, but that's not me, and it's aggravating that we're not together, that like what's in the mirror and who I am in person is not one thing. There's just so many levels to monodrama, guys. It's Jonghyun wrote the shit out that song. He wrote the shit out that song. So that would be my favorite solo song from Jong. Favorite solo song and solo project from Key, because I believe Key is older than Minho, but they're not super separated in age. I think Key's best song in terms of like title tracks, because I like his B-sides a lot, but I have to focus on this particular title track, Killer. Killer is the song that I wanted Key to release since he said he was going to do solos. Like, I was like, oh, great, Key's going solo. He needs to do kind of a bright, a blinding lights type of song, right? He gave us Killer. Killer is so fantastic. Killer is so well done. And I hate that people did not give Killer the time and the energy it deserved. It had some good B-sides on it too, but man, I'm the killer. I love Killer. I just think Killer is perfect. I think Killer is fantastic. I know a lot more people pay attention to Face. I don't care. It's Killer. Killer's the one. Now, if I was to talk about which project, like project as a whole, that is my favorite from Key, oddly enough, I really like Hologram. Hologram is the Japanese project that he did after he did Face. And it's a Japanese album. I believe it's a full album. But it's a lot more kind of R&B tinted than what he's done in Korea. And I really like it. I think it's very, very good. And whenever I listen to it, I don't skip anything. I think it just flows really well. I like the packaging. It's really thin kind of packaging. It's not it's not super ostentatious. Uh, it's funny because on the packaging, it's his face, and I think he's got stickers on it. And when the Olivia Rodrigo album came out, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of Keith. But yeah, I really, really love Hologram. I wish he would release another full Japanese album. That would be great. But he's got work. He's got jobs. He's got multiple jobs. He's got Amazing Saturday. He's got I Live Alone. He's constantly popping up on his friends' different social medias and projects and things like that. He's, the only thing holding together Shiny artistically when it comes to like their social media. So he's a busy, busy man, but I hope he does another Japanese album soon because I really like the direction that his music goes in Japan. All right, now we're on to Minho, who only has one album, Chase. So obviously Chase is my favorite project by Minho, but I like Heartbreak as a song, and I was really disappointed that they didn't decide to save Heartbreak for the album. I mean, don't get me wrong, Chase is not a bad song. It's a very interesting video. You can obviously tell that Minho went with a more cinematic vision for his solo video than maybe other members of Shiny would. Like, it's a very linear vision, almost like Memento in a way. The movie Memento, like, it's got kind of that same feel. However, Heartbreak there's just something about the chorus of Heartbreak that just gets to me. You're just here for the heartbreak, heartbreak, heartbreak. I love that part. And then the heartbreak, heartbreak. Ah, I love that so much. So yeah, that is my favorite from Mr. Minho, number one Shawa himself. And I look forward to seeing what else he's gonna do. Also, like, props to Minho. I was not completely convinced about a Minho project that was all rapping because he is the designated rapper of Shiny, and he gave us no raps, and I'm so cool with that. I'm so cool with that. I am I'm so cool with that. Also, he did a collaborative track on his solo, which is very, very nice. And then finally, Taman, our ace, our baby. He was so happy to get out the military. Did you see? This boy lives on Instagram. He is like, I missed you. I hope you missed me because you're going to see a whole bunch of me. I'm taking pictures. I'm shooting video. I'm recording songs. I'm playing piano. I'm showing up at this place and that meet. I got a whole fan meet coming up. Hi, guys. It's me. I came back. Like, Taman is like, have you ever seen those videos of soldiers coming home from like deployment and then their dog goes to greet them at the door and the dog is like going wild, slobbering, jumping up and down, whimpering and just like I have so many emotions I can't contain it. So like my body's just going crazy right now. That is Taman coming back from the military. Like that boy had to be on an adrenaline high for weeks. It's just he's so happy to be home. He's so happy to be home. He's so happy to be doing music. He's so happy to be with his young. Like he is ecstatic. Ecstatic. But anyway, Taman being home, I'm sure that he's already recorded like 5 solo albums in the time that he's been home because this boy was itching to get back in the studio. But of the projects that he's done prior to going to the military, even though Ace is still for me one of the best things he's ever done. And like in terms of like accessibility, if you were wanting to get used to Taman and you wanted to get to know him, then I would absolutely recommend starting with Ace and just moving in like chronological order. I loved what he did with Never Gonna Dance Again. I thought Never Gonna Dance Again was such an interesting project. Number one, because if you read it in a different way, I read it as kind of a tribute to George Michael. I know it wasn't. I know it was not a tribute to George Michael. But, Careless Whispers, I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm. Come on. Come on. I know I'm old, but the rest of you know Careless Whispers, right? I mean, the saxophone solo. Careless Whisper. Come on. Follow me here. Anyway, that I was like, I love this. I love Taman giving kudos to a queer icon. But going away from that and not assuming that he's paying tribute to George Michael, I like that he broke it up into 2 pieces and that both pieces have completely different feels to them. I love what he did with the songs. I think Advice is such a great song. Like, I've always talked about how I feel like sometimes Taman does like BDSM club music. Like since Move, I feel like he's kind of done BDSM club music, but I feel like Advice was a little bit different. It felt like it was reaching more towards like mainstream pop. It kind of gave me a Gaga feel, like early Gaga feel. I really liked Advice. I really, really did. Well, Advice was actually the single that he did before he went to the military. But yeah, I really liked that. Idea was not my favorite because of the pronunciation, but I loved Boa being there. I thought that was great. But the ma idea, I was like, idea, what the fuck? But still, I thought that it was really good. I thought that it was a really cool take on things. Um, I would have never pronounced idea like that. In my life, I would have never pronounced idea like that. But that just goes to show I'm not an artist. He is. But yeah, I really, really like the Never Gonna Dance Again project. I like it. Black Rose, I think, was on the first one. Really cool. Um, Taman is super religious, so the fact that he was playing with like religious iconography for this project, I was also like, ooh, that boy is being bad. But yeah, I really like the Never Gonna Dance Again project. And I liked Advice. I lump Advice in with that because to me, Advice wasn't promoted. Like Advice, he spit advice at us and then went to the military. Like, here you go. By the way, I have a huge tattoo on my side, and then skeetered off. But I lump it all together. I consider it to be part of a trifecta, if you will. But yeah, I love that project from him. Now, if I have to talk about my favorite Taman song, I'm going back in the archives. This was really hard for me because I think Taman probably makes some of the best choices for his title tracks of any of the members of SHINee. Um, I think that the songs that he picks to be his lead singles are never wrong. I never listen to the album like, oh, this should have been the lead single. No, I always feel like he picks a perfect song to be the lead. But Until Today is by far my favorite Taman song. Until Today was written by G Soul, who he's gone by the name Golden before, but when he first debuted, he was G Soul. He debuted under JYP. He did a lot of Korean hip hop stuff after he left JYP, and I like his voice. I like his songwriting, but he wrote Until Today, and that song, uh, girl, I gave it my all. I can't do runs. Uh, if you've never heard Until Today, I recommend. I mean, you guys know I'm an R&B bitch. Like every time I recommend songs, I think people are like, I'm not in the mood to listen to an R&B ballad or whatever, because it kind of is an R&B ballad for sure. But it is such a good song, guys. Until Today, Taman sings his ass off on that thing. He really does. He gets all the runs, all the ad libs. It's nice, and it's on Press It, which itself Press It as a project also really super great. If we never thought that Taman was SM's favorite before Press It, the fact that SM did like 3 or 4 different like trailer teasers for Press It, like they had that boy standing on a piano, dancing in the wind and rain. They took him to the desert and they dropped 2 title tracks for Press It. Drip Drop and Press It. 2 title tracks for Press It. Like SM loves Taman down. They love him down. But yeah, so those are my favorite projects and solo songs from the members of SHINee. And then I guess just to wrap this up, because I've been talking at you guys now for like 50 minutes and I kind of need to pee. Um, just my hopes and dreams for SHINee moving forward. Number one, it goes without saying, I hope that every Shawwal feels like they have a place in SHINee world. One of the things that is very frustrating about being a fan of any K-pop group in the digital age is that no matter how unproblematic you and your friend group might be, there's always some fucking shit stirring going on and people trying to tell you who's allowed to grieve, how you're allowed to grieve, who's allowed to remember who in what way, and just there's a lot of gatekeeping that happens with SHINee. Now don't get me wrong, some of the gatekeeping is completely warranted. You know, if the members of SHINee want to talk about Jonghyun and somebody's upset that they keep talking about him, kick fucking rocks, bitch. This is not the fandom for you. But, you know, outside of that, I think that everyone experiences life differently. We're all born with our own brain. And so we experience life through the way that our brain interprets the world. And me being an American, I perceive things in a very American way. And other people not being Americans, they'll perceive things in the language of their country, the culture of their country, through their familial experiences, through their work experiences, through their educational experiences, and also just like the traumas that we all go through. And there is no right or wrong way to be a shawal because we all come from so many different places and we all have so many different faces. And so a lot of grace needs to be handed to us when we're trying to talk about being a shawal and not as much judgment. We need to move away from judgment. So my hope would be for Shiny World and for the shawls that inhabit Shiny World that will find a way to come together and create spaces that feel inclusive. I hope that we'll quit entertaining trolls. Like literally when somebody says some shit to garner engagement, just ignore them. Act like they don't exist. Don't give them the things they want. Don't throw a goat under the bridge to feed the troll. So yes, I hope that Shining World will become a place where people say, I've had a lot of experiences with fandom, but this is a place where I feel loved because that is what Shiny has been for me. Shiny has been love. I've had some difficult years um, recently. Like, the last couple of years have not been the easiest years for me. And I needed Shiny. I needed Shiny bad. And they were there for me. Just hearing their voices and hearing songs I had been familiar with for a while brought a sense of comfort to me that I couldn't get anywhere else. It was them, and it was them and the coming home to songs that I'd always known, but then taking my emotional state during those really rough times and diving under the covers of these well-worn songs that really brought me to a place of ease and of contentment and familiarity and the idea that things can be okay. And not for nothing, watching the four active members of Shiny go on has mattered tremendously. There's only two things that are certain in this life: you'll be born and you'll die. And no one knows when that's going to happen for them. And along the way, we make all these connections with people and places. And if you're lucky, if you're extremely fortunate and blessed, your absence will be felt by others. But sometimes an absence is so raw and so visceral that you have to ask yourself, how can I go on? How can I go on? And Minho and Onu and Ki and Taemin have been a stellar example of how to go on. And I think that the trick is go on for you. Hi, Nina. Go on for you. Don't worry about what the public might think about you having lingering feelings. Don't worry about having to press on because other people feel like you shouldn't sit in this emotion. Don't be quiet about people that you loved vocally when they were here. Be vocal about still loving them and create something with your life that if they had a chance to revisit you, they could be proud of you. And I know for a fact, if John could see them now, he would be so proud of what they've done. He would be in the front row with light sticks, wearing the hats, wearing the t-shirts, wearing the banners, and he would be just ah! Singing along to every lyric, trying to dance every dance. Because love doesn't die. We care because we love. And love doesn't die. It might not have anywhere to go, but it doesn't die. So I'm grateful for having had Shiny in my life now for 11 years because when I didn't need them, they were there. When I needed them, they were there. When I thought they couldn't teach me anything, they taught me everything. And I'm very, very, very happy to be a Shawwal. No notes. No notes. Thank you guys for joining me for celebrating 15 years of the very best boys on the planet. Actually, let me correct that. The very best men on the planet. They're not boys anymore. They're all through with their military enlistments. Um, and thank you for following my channel. My channel I've had now for quite a while. I think I've had my channel for close to 10 years. And so, yeah, you guys have had quite the journey with me. And I thank you for hanging in there. I thank you for allowing me to do the things that I do when I do them and how I do them, for allowing me to have an irregular schedule, for allowing me to move on from unboxings to commentary to whatever the fuck this is. And I thank you for loving Shiny as well. I mean, I love them all day long, even if the rest of y'all don't care. But I have really appreciated the fact that those that have watched me over the years have always been there for me whenever I have wanted to talk about Shiny, and you've been there to support me through the tears, and you've been there to listen to me when I've been happy and ecstatic, and you've been there to join in with the joy. So I thank you tremendously for everything you've done in being a part of my Shawwal journey. So I thank you and I thank Shiny, and we don't know what's gonna happen to SM because that is that thing over there. But as long as Shiny wants to release music or be on television or breathe, as long as Shiny wants to breathe, I will be there with my mint colored heart, cheering and crying and laughing and ready to jump in because I love them. I love them. I love them. Happy anniversary, Shiny, from a Shawwal in Colorado. And yeah, 15 down, 50 more to go. Bye, y'all.